Hey everyone, hope you're good. If you're new here, my name's Simranjeet Mann. I'm a future trainee solicitor for a UK top 20 law firm. So for those of you who do know me, you'll know that I usually make videos about law, about careers, and just generally just vlogging my career journey as well. But today's video is going to be very different to what I usually do. I'm going to be talking about an issue that if you care about human rights, you would and you should care about this issue as well. I'm going to be breaking down everything about the farmers' protests for you. What's going on in India, why is it happening, and what can you do to help? This video is intended for those of you who've heard little bits of snippets of information here and there, especially now that Rihanna and Greta Thunberg, for example, have tweeted about this issue as well. But if you've heard those little snippets and you're not entirely sure about what's been going on, this video simplifies the whole thing down for you. I've structured this video into 5 sections. Firstly, I'm going to be talking about the key definitions that you could get when researching into this particular issue of the farmers' protests. Secondly, I'll be talking about what's actually been happening, what's the background, why has this all happened. Thirdly, I'll be talking about why there was not enough attention given to this cause before. Fourthly, I'll be talking about why you should care about this cause. And lastly, I'll be talking about what we can do to help. Alright, let's start off with key definitions. These are terms that you may have come across on social media like Twitter or Instagram. Firstly, kisaan means farmer. So when you're saying it's a kisaan's protest, it's the farmers' protest. You may have also heard of the term Kisan Morcha. Morcha basically means protest. So Kisan Morcha means farmers protest. Alright, so now if you're hearing the term Kisan Ekta Morcha, Ekta means one or unity. So Kisan Ekta Morcha, the farmers are united in their protest. You may have also come across the hashtag Kisan Ekta Zindabad. Zindabad means long live. So essentially Kisan Ekta Zindabad means long live the farmers' unity. Now let's move on to the background of what's been happening in this whole situation. So essentially this whole situation arises out of the changes in the way farmers are selling their crops and their produce in India. Before September 2020, farmers used to sell their produce and their crops at their state's committee. This was called the Agricultural Produce Market Committee. By selling at the committee, farmers would get a minimum support price, which is what the government's minimum price was to buy these crops and produce from the farmers. It's very similar to the minimum wage that we get as employees in the UK. However, in September 2020, this changed when the Indian government decided to pass 3 bills. Essentially, these bills gave big corporates the opportunity to enter into the agricultural sector. And inevitably and unfortunately, this means that there would be greater exploitation of farmers. Let me tell you why. These bills would allow big corporations to have more choice. They can control the price of the farmer's product, not the farmer themselves. Now imagine you're a farmer growing like tomatoes. You've put so much hard work into what you grow, and then another big corporate comes in and determines the price and the worth of your hard work. You are given little bargaining power, and those big corporates are able to buy your crops with no minimum price set. You'd be angry, right? You'd be frustrated. The worst thing is, when this bill was being passed, any opposition to the bill was also ignored. Since 26th of November 2020, 250 million farmers have been marching to Delhi. This is the largest protest ever in history. And what do these farmers want? They want just one thing: these bills to be repealed. Why does repealing these bills mean so much to farmers? Well, 70% of rural households in India depend on the income from agricultural produce as their primary source of income. So can you see that these bills really affect farmers, their livelihood, and their families? Times have already been tough for farmers as well. You can see these in the stats. 11.2% of all suicides in India are farmer suicides. These bills only make it harder for farmers to provide for themselves and their families. And marching to Delhi is no easy feat either. It's not like we're walking from town to town. The distance between Punjab and Delhi, for example, is 360 kilometers. I mean, I died during that 5-kilometer challenge everyone was doing on Instagram, so even walking 360 kilometers in the winter is no easy feat. It's also very important to note that the intentions of the farmers while they were protesting was peaceful. Now, India considers itself to be one of the largest democracies in the world. So you'd think the right to peacefully protest would be okay, right? You would think that the government would try and at least respond to the protest, at least try and address the issues that the farmers are raising. grazing, right? Wrong. Since protesting, the farmers have been met with several obstacles along the way, like Indian police throwing tear gas, petrol bombs, using water cannons on them. Metal spikes and concrete walls have also been built or installed, which in turn halts the water or food lines provided to farmers. There's also been regional internet blackouts. Several journalists have been arrested and charged, and an individual called Nodeep Kaur has been assaulted, tortured and sexually assaulted by Indian police. Hundreds of farmers have been reported as missing and over 100 have died whilst protesting. So after hearing all this begs the question, why has there not been enough attention given to this cause already? Before individuals like Rihanna and Greta Thunberg talked about the farmers' protest, this was mainly an issue that was circulating around South Asian circles. However, South Asians cannot help but feel disappointed by members of their own community who have failed to speak up, including certain Bollywood actors or actresses who have promoted farmers' livelihood when promoting their own movies, but failed to do so when it actually came to promoting and supporting farmers' actual livelihoods. Another reason why there has not been enough attention given to the farmers' protests globally is because there has been widespread censorship and suspensions of Twitter accounts or Instagram pages who talked about this issue. Now let's move on to the next issue of why you should care. Well, first and foremost, this is a human rights issue. It's not one religion against the other. So just because you're not South Asian or you're not Hindu or you're not Sikh or you're not Punjabi, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be talking or educating yourself on this issue. Remember, silence means that you are siding with the oppressor. So you may well be thinking, India is so many miles from me. I don't know if any farmers personally, why should I care? Well, let me ask you one thing. Have you had food today that had ginger or chili in? As part of your 5 a day, have you ate bananas or mangoes? Are you trying to keep up with health trends and use turmeric in your latte or your face masks? Or are you using rice as part of that hair growth technique that everyone's talking about on TikTok? Well, India is the largest producer of food and veg and the second largest producer of wheat and rice. The issue of the farmers' protest hits a lot closer to home than you think. So what can we do to help? I think the main thing is using your voice and sharing information about the protest is absolutely vital. You can use the hashtag farmers protest to do so, and there's also loads of hashtags that I've mentioned in the video description below. It doesn't matter how big or small your platform is. I had that same what if question when I was creating this video. Who would want to listen to me? Why would anyone care? But that forms part of the problem. The more people who are talking about it, the better it is. And we've already seen the advantages of speaking out with the fact that Rihanna managed to actually notice the farmers' protest and tweet about it herself. And it's not only about posting once and that's it. This is a human rights issue. It should touch you at your core. Be consistent in using your voice. We should also be putting pressure on government officials to bring this to the attention of its people and globally. So send letters to your local MPs, tag them in tweets that literally takes 2 seconds. Put pressure on them to act. Sign petitions urging your elected officials to do better. I would also like to point you towards several Instagram pages, Twitter activists and resources in the video description that can help you in educating yourself further on this issue. Thank you so much. The fact that you've gotten to the end of this video, it honestly means the absolute world to me.